No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
So, ICEFALL. Oh my. I'm just going to read this, folks. When an alien ship thaws from Alaska's Mendenhall Glacier, super beings called the Nine awaken to confront a predatory species threatening Earth's survival in this sci-fi thriller. Here at the Writer's Dossier, we don't cover a lot of sci-fi. That's why I'm so excited to talk to Michael Newman and John Land about this book. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having us.
John, you're welcome. John, you and I met briefly at a thriller fest a few years ago, and I started looking into you, had no idea. And I'm going to put you right on the spot here.
Go for it.
All right, here we go. If you had to choose Caitlin Strong, Texas Ranger Caitlin Strong, or The Murder, She Wrote, which one would you want to write again?
No doubt, Caitlin Strong, because I didn't own The Murder, She Wrote. I was a hired gun, and it's very hard to take ownership of something that's not yours. And I think the great thing about ICEFALL and working with Mike is it's ours. And that doesn't always happen, and it doesn't always succeed. But this time it did. So, and I think that's a key distinction.
I'm really excited about that. And Mike, I want to talk to you guys both about how you worked together on this, but I just want to direct everyone's attention back to this book. The Rise of the Nine, the book is called ICEFALL. A team of super beings are all that stands between Earth and total annihilation at the hands of predatory alien species. And listen to this. I'm just going to read this. It's from James Rollins, the James Rollins. Newman and Land's thriller ICEFALL is a bombshell of a debut, scintillating and explosive action, characters that break new ground, a worldview that spans millennia, all wrapped up in a tour de force story that grabs from the first page to a climax that left me breathless. Oh my God. He also says, I loved getting lost in this world and can't wait to return to it. So guys, get writing. Dude, Mike, what was it like coming up with this story with John Land? I mean, this is your debut. John Land, I'm sorry, legendary 65 best-selling author. What was this experience like for you, man?
It was great. It's, it was long. So I started off with the manuscript.
How long? Well, how long did it take for you guys to knock this out?
Well, I wrote the original manuscript, and so roughly 400 something pages. And then I wanted to bring it to another level, and with someone that had experience beyond my experience. You don't know what you don't know. And so I started looking around, and I was able to connect with John, and John loved the concept, loved the idea, loved the original manuscript, felt he could help elevate it and bring it to a whole nother level, which he did. And so then we began working together. And for us, from the beginning to the end, once he got the original manuscript, was probably 6 months, John? 8 months?
I think about that,
Somewhere-
yes.
Yeah.
John, when you grabbed that manuscript from Mike the first time and you started going through it, what was it about ICEFALL, or it may not have even been called that at the time, what was it about his writing and what he was trying to do that made you say, one, wow, and two, let's do this?
The high concept, the notion of it's the classic soft sci-fi opening because it takes place in the present day on Earth. So it's not hard sci-fi like Project Hail Mary. It's softer sci-fi, but it's the classic trope with an alien spaceship that crashes somewhere. In this case, Alaska, Mendenhall Glacier, which didn't exist when it crashed, but that's what grew over it. And then years later, because of climate change, the ice thaws out and what was on the ship gets loose. I saw the original movie, The Thing, when I was probably 10 or 12 years old. And I saw of course, the classic remake, John Carpenter, The Thing which came out in 83. And I have never forgotten The Thing. The opening, one of the earlier scenes in the black and white version is they're all they're in a circle. This is also in the follow-up. All the guys are in a circle. They look under the ice and they figure out there's a flying saucer there or there's a spaceship there in the second one. Yeah. And they blow it up and something gets out. So the notion of an enemy, an undefeated, something that's impregnable, can't be beaten, doesn't exist on this world, thawing out and getting loose. And what I saw was not the thing, but a million things, a billion things let loose
Nice.
on the world. So I saw the ability to take something with Mike, that a story that I loved with the thing, and taking it to another level. And that's what it just it resonated with me on the same level. Also, movies like Aliens, the sequel to Alien, did the blend
Yes.
between sci-fi and action, as opposed to straight
Yes.
action, which is what I've been always writing. So this, I'm not getting any younger, and this working with Mike on this project, it allowed me to stretch and do something I'd never done before. So that's really where the excitement and the attraction started.
Come on, no jokes about our ages, John. I know you saw the original in the theater when you were 10. It was what, Buster Keaton was in it? Just Mike, how I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, working with John would be kind of, I don't want to say intimidating, but holy cow, that's how it would be for me. How was it for you when you first made that first contact, to use a space alien term, getting in touch with him and saying, "Please trust me. Let's and then waiting to hear back." What was that? How'd that process feel for you?
Well, John had read some, a couple pages initially and got a good feel, and then also got to read an outline of what it was all about. And John's a very exciting personality. We got on the phone and we probably talked for an hour and a half, and it flowed real easy. We had a great conversation. He shared some ideas right off the bat that he had and some thoughts, and he was good at listening to what I was looking for and what I wanted to do and working with someone as well. So, which made it really nice. And I knew I had read his books when I was a long time ago as well. So I already know he's a great writer. And through the process, I learned a lot. I learned a lot on how to fine tune my arcs or plot points or whatever it may be. So through working with them, where something wasn't quite, and that was the thing. I wrote it, loved it, accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, but it wasn't quite to the level that I wanted something to be at. And so, working for myself for so long, it's one of those things, you can't be bashful. You got to reach out and get help where you need help.
You're so good at this because you lead right into the next question. What is it that you think you learned the most? Because there are a lot of writers who have gone through what you just described. Hey, I've got something, but it's just not quite there. And they need some help. They need some direction. They may need what Rob Hart likes to say, open heart surgery, or just, some first aid. What stands out the most for you as you move forward with what you've learned when you approach a story and how you write it? Is it, like you mentioned, plot points and arcs? Is it you can't really teach voice, but what are you going to walk away from this experience with then for the next story that you start to write?
Yeah. So with the first one, we really picked up the pace. We took the lull out of it. And so it's a fast moving book. And so I really learned how to do that, how to take those points that were really going nowhere and to bring them along, and to remove the ones that, what's the value? What's the point of this? Where's it going? So I learned a lot about that, and a lot about some character dynamics, how to incorporate some of those dynamics a little bit differently to get to the end result where everybody's going to love that character.
Okay. That's great stuff. John, you're killing it right now with these collaborations. I mentioned earlier the National Park series that you've done. Off the top of my head, give me the titles, John.
The National Park
the
series,
ones you wrote.
and Cold Burn.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah. So you did those as a collaboration. How is it with this? I don't want to call Mike young because he's experienced and tenured, but you've got 65 books under your belt and a ton of experience. You've written with Heather Graham. You wrote you wrote Dirty Deeds. I mean, you've done so many things over a long period of time. What do you see in this newer crop, this next crop of writers, that they're doing well, or they need to shift differently? Because this business is changing, and you've seen it all. What advice do you have for collaborations? And is that a way people should try to go?
Well, one thing that hasn't changed to answer the question is you have to write a great story. You
Yes.
don't have to write a great book. You have to write a great story that someone wants that grabs the reader by the throat and doesn't let go. And that's really so no matter what you're doing or what format you're doing or how many people you're working with or you're doing it alone, it still has to be a great story. The advantages to collaboration are, it is really true. Two heads are better than one. And it's the art of collaboration, and all books are collaborative because if you don't have a co-author, you have editors, you have publishers. Everything you do, you're working as a team, and you get very close to your work when you're working alone. So you lose the ability to be objective. Working in collaboration, especially, believe it or not, with someone like Mike, who's not necessarily, like you said, it's a debut for him, but his instincts are on par. And it's like that becomes the subjective voice, allowing, the person who's going to say it acts as as a collaborative writer, why don't we try this way? Because I think this will work better. And of course,
Yeah.
I might initially resist that, but I can tell you, and here's the bottom line. Make a list of 100 greatest things in ICEFALL, I'd say maybe 5 were me and 15 were Mike because that was the original IP. The other 80 were ours. Literally, we came up with them together in phone calls, in challenges, in challenging each other. So what one person would struggle to do well, two people might struggle to do great.
That is a wonderful answer. Wow. I've talked to other collaborators, and I know there's a lot going on right now. Brad Thor, Ward Larson, the other stuff you've done. That's wonderful. Mike, what was, if you can remember, a time where you had put your blood, sweat, and tears in this? It's ICEFALL out July 14th. Can't wait for this thing to drop. Was there a time where you got some comment back? Maybe like in an email or something where you didn't have to respond during a conversation, and you just thought, "Oh man, John Land, what he's losing it." No, that's not what I. Was there anything like that where you really questioned anything that he had to say?
Don't tell
For
me.
sure. And he questioned things I had to say. It was more like John and I, we got down a really good pattern of we would have every Tuesday evening an hour and a half
Okay.
call every week, like clockwork. And then work in between, and then we'd kind of discuss what was coming up. And that's where him and I would go back and forth. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes he's real passionate about a point, and I'm like, that doesn't work for me. Sometimes I'm real passionate, and he's like, nah, that doesn't work for me. And we both could be stubborn in that way, but he's got more experience. So we'll go back and forth. And I would say truly 99% of the time, we would, just by going back and forth, we came out with a better idea on how to make something work.
So how did it work for both of you then with working with Simon and Schuster? Because now you guys have gone back and forth, and you've measured and double measured and then cut, and you put this together, and you're both happy. So now there's two of you, and you go to Simon and Schuster and you hand it off. Or I don't know if it went through an editor, an agent first, and an agent gave comments, but working with the publisher, comments back. I mean, you guys are satisfied with this, and it's really good. So how was that process with the editorial process with a publisher as big as Simon & Schuster?
I'm new to it, so John would have more experience of what is typical for me on my end, and he can elaborate much more. The comments weren't bad at all, and the ones they made were smart comments that they no. I thought it was pretty smooth all in all. I mean, there's a lot of edits where I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. But John, go ahead, you elaborate.
My first agent, the great legendary woman named Tony Mendez, used to say, "You name the writer, I'll name the editor." And Mike and I, and this is the scope of our collaboration. I felt that we needed somebody early on to act as a checklist for us, especially since I had never done sci-fi of this level before. So we brought on one of my closest friends, Jeff Ayers, to be our editor. And Jeff did a magnificent job.
That's fantastic.
That third voice, to the point, and this gets to the to the crux of your question, by the time it got to Permuted Press, it didn't need any more. It needed line editing. It needed, deep stuff, put it through the AI
Sure.
checkers, all that stuff. But we were not Jeff had already done the heavy lifting. So we delivered them something that was in a much better form than most publishers are used to receiving. So that it was kind of like the publisher of Permuted is a good friend of mine. For some reason, he trusts me. Probably a bad mistake, but he trusts me. But you know what? That's the collaboration too, because the finishing a book and getting it to a publisher, that's only the beginning. We had to go through the cover design, which was very challenging to convey the message of the book on the cover. We needed to decide,
It's slick
hardcover, which way are we going? But in terms of you want to deliver a manuscript, and this is something I tell newbie writers, if this hasn't been edited, don't show it to anybody. Get an editor. Nothing is more important than showing your best. You don't compromise. You don't send something to a publisher and say, well, they'll help me make it better, because they won't. If it's not good enough, they're not going to publish it. So our goal was to deliver camera-ready manuscripts, more or less.
That is fantastic. I just want to throw out one thing out there to everyone listening. Folks, be very careful who you choose when you get that editor. I speak from personal experience. John, what advice do you have for someone looking for an editor?
Email me. I'll recommend a few good ones. I would say one thing, truthfully, references and referrals. Don't go online and
references and referrals.
Find that way. Talk to somebody who's used one, because the pricing, quality, pace is all over the place, and you can spend anywhere between $1,000 and $25,000. So
absolutely agree.
And some of the best don't charge as much as the people who are charging a ridiculous amount. So referrals, talk to
that is true. And folks, you can
boat. And who do they use?
Yep. All right, get with John Land, and folks, go ahead and you can email me too through the website at thewritersdossier.com. I'll give you my 2 cents. One last thing, John, I want to cover something with you that's I think is really important for the writing community. We've talked about reaching out to editors and collaborations and working with third parties. You are legendary in the ITW, the International Thriller Writers Association. You're still on the board. How many have you gone to in a row? Haven't you gone to like 30 thriller fests in a row?
I've missed one. There's only a handful of us who have been to all of them. But I genuinely enjoy camaraderie. I enjoy the people. Mike hasn't been to one yet, but he's going to. So we'll break him in.
Yeah, he is. Well, I enjoyed meeting you, like I said, a few years ago in New York briefly, and you were swamped. The contribution that you've made to the writing community is immeasurable.
Thank you.
I love how you've pivoted you're welcome, to so many different avenues and angles, working with different writers, writing different genres, doing so many things. You're a pro's pro. And I want to thank you personally, definitely, for everything you've done for me and for coming on. Michael, congratulations on coming up with this story, this ICEFALL. And like John said, the cover, whoever put time and effort into that, nailed it. Just the color alone it conveys, I think, what you guys are trying to put across. So
thank you.
Michael Newman, how do we get in touch with you? I know you have a website. Are you on social media? What one social media outlet should people find you at and follow you on?
You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok, and it's michaelnewmanauthor.com for the website. And then same on the Instagram, Michael Newman Author.
Folks, definitely look that up. Give it a follow. It'll be in the show notes. And John Land, people might immediately land on your Wikipedia page. I don't know how many writers we've had on the Writers Dossier podcast that has their own Wikipedia page, and this is episode 80-something. Where can we follow you, and what all the great things you're up to, John?
I'm on social media also, so Facebook, Instagram, back on X to help promote books again.
Got it.
So social media. And my website's being rebuilt, so John Land, something will be back. eventually. So, but contact
It's
Mike.
coming back.
Go to him.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Everybody, go ahead, take a look at the YouTube page and whatever platform you stream this on. All the show notes will be in there. Look for ICEFALL, July 14th. If today that you're listening to this, folks, isn't July 14th, order it. Order it anyways, because it'll be there when it's available. You've got to get this book. And you guys made it. You made one hint, and we're going to end on this. You made one hint about this being the first. Are there more stories, Michael?
There are. Yes.
Outstanding. All right, we're really excited to see all the great things from you guys and this book. So thanks again for joining the Writer's Dossier. It is so good to see you guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. You bet. Bye, everybody. The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.